Has anyone ever dealt with sleep paralysis? Because let me tell you, no story, no Reddit thread, no late-night YouTube video actually prepares you for what it feels like when it happens to you. It's not just being stuck. It's waking up with your brain fully online while your body hits snooze without permission. You can see, you can hear, you can think, but moving? Not happening. You're trapped in this weird in-between zone, half dreaming, half awake, and your mind fills in the blanks in the worst ways possible. I'd heard about sleep paralysis long before I ever experienced it. People called it a night demon, a hallucination, your stress manifesting. I brushed it off as spooky folklore stuff. Interesting, sure, but distant. Something that happened to other people. Then college happened. I was in my early 20s, finals week from hell, living on caffeine and anxiety. I was barely sleeping, barely eating, and my stress level was through the roof. That night, right before my last exam, I remember staring at my notes until the words stopped making sense. My lamp blurred, my thoughts melted together, and at some point I just shut down. Blackout. The next thing I knew, I was in my bed. Except something was off. The room looked familiar but wrong, like a cheap copy of itself. Everything felt hazy, almost underwater. I tried to shift my legs. Nothing. Tried to lift my arms. Nope. Panic crept in fast, but I told myself to stay cool. You're just tired. You'll snap out of it. I could still move my eyes, so I scanned the room. The door, the dresser, the shadow in the corner that didn't belong there. When I glanced back toward the center of the room, my stomach dropped. There was a woman standing at the foot of my bed. She wasn't blurry or transparent or ghost-like like you'd expect. She looked solid, real. She was wearing a long black dress, old-fashioned, and she was holding something metallic, long and thin like tools or rods. I tried to yell for my mom, but my mouth wouldn't cooperate. My chest felt tight, like something heavy was sitting on it. She stepped closer. Every instinct in my body was screaming, "Run!" But my body didn't get the memo. She knelt beside my bed, reached out, and pressed her fingers against my forehead. I felt it. Cold, real. Then she leaned in until our faces were inches apart, and that's when I saw it. It was my mother's face. Same eyes, same expression, same everything. I tried to say her name again, forcing every ounce of strength into my throat, but all I could do was breathe shallow and fast. She stood up slowly, turned toward the hallway, and walked out of the room like nothing had happened. A few seconds later, the haze lifted. My body unlocked like a glitch finally fixed itself. I shot up in bed and screamed her name, bolting into the hallway like my life depended on it. A door opened. Someone hugged me. But it wasn't my mom. It was my dad. And he was crying. My mother had passed away 3 weeks earlier. That was the night sleep paralysis stopped being interesting and started being deeply messed up. After that, sleep itself started feeling suspicious. Like every time I closed my eyes, my brain was just waiting to pull some twisted stunt. And once you've crossed that line, it's hard to go back to sleeping normally. Years later, I had another episode. This one started as a dream, classic nightmare fuel. I was running through the woods at night, branches snapping, something chasing me that I couldn't quite see. My lungs burned, my legs felt heavy. Then the dream fuzzed out like a corrupted video file. I awoke, except I didn't. Same deal. Couldn't move, couldn't scream. My room was pitch black, but I could hear something. At first, it was faint, a weird sound, mechanical but organic, like static mixed with breathing. It repeated every few seconds, getting louder each time, closer. My eyes locked onto my closet. The door was cracked open. That alone made my heart race because I never leave it open, ever. And in that thin slice of darkness, something was staring back at me. A face. Too wide, mouth stretched into a grin that didn't make sense, like it was pulled past human limits. Every time the noise repeated, the face seemed closer, the closet larger, like the room itself was warping around it. The noise grew unbearable, like it was inside my skull. Then, bang! The closet door slammed shut. Silence. My body released me a moment later, and I didn't even hesitate. I sprinted straight to my dad's room, grown adult pride completely gone. He checked the closet with me. Nothing inside, no sounds, no signs of anything. He told me he'd experienced sleep paralysis once too. That didn't help, not even a little. Another time, years before I even knew what sleep paralysis was, I had an episode that still messes with me to this day. I knew somehow that there was something in my closet, something bad. I could feel it. But part of my mind was aware enough to think, if this is a dream, face it, don't let it win. I tried to turn my eyes toward the closet, but every time I did, my head turned away on its own, like something was physically preventing me from looking. When I finally woke up, I was drenched in sweat, heart pounding, relieved it was over. Then I realized I still couldn't move. The laughter came next. Not audible exactly, more like a sensation, a wave of sick amusement rolling over me from the direction of the closet. Then something hit my chest. A human head. Face up. It was a girl I'd gone to high school with. That's when I lost it. I tried to scream, but all that came out were broken sounds, grunts, breathy moans. I thrashed, tried to shake it off, but my body wouldn't cooperate. After what felt like forever, I snapped awake for real. For weeks after that, I was scared every time I opened my eyes, worried I was still trapped in it. I'd only had paralysis a couple more times after that. Usually it was just the standard stuff, waking up frozen, heart racing, nothing visual. Then came the morning that changed everything. It was early, just before sunrise. The room was dim, washed in pale blue light. I woke up stuck again, eyes glued to the wall. Footsteps started climbing the stairs. Heavy, slow. My bedroom door opened. My brother walked in. Then my sister. Then my dad. Then my mom. They were crying, sobbing. And they were taller, way taller than normal, nearly brushing the ceiling. They stopped beside my bed and stared down at me, faces twisted with grief. I wanted to beg them to stop, to ask what was wrong, to tell them they were terrifying me. Then they turned and walked out. I could move again. I ran after them. Every room in the house was empty. They were all asleep. A few days later, I got hit by a car. I survived the accident, obviously, but survived is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. 3 broken bones, a fractured thigh, a week in the hospital hooked up to machines that beeped non-stop like they were counting down to something. Pain meds kept me foggy, drifting in and out of sleep, and honestly, I hated it. Every time my eyes closed, I was scared I'd wake up frozen again, staring at something that didn't belong in the room. One night, somewhere around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of quiet crying. Not the dramatic TV-style sobbing either. It was controlled, exhausted, like someone who'd already cried themselves empty and still had nothing left to give. My heart immediately started racing. Hospitals are creepy enough at night, and when you're doped up and half awake, everything feels off. I tried to turn my head. Nothing. That familiar dread crawled up my spine, the weight, the pressure, the realization hitting all at once. Not again. You've got to be kidding me. I was stuck. The crying got closer. My eyes shifted toward the foot of the bed, and there they were, my family, standing exactly the way they had in that earlier episode. Same positions, same height, same overwhelming sense of grief hanging off them like a thick fog. My mom's face was wet with tears. My dad looked hollow, like he hadn't slept in days. They didn't speak, they just stared. Machines beeped steadily beside me, the only sound grounding me in reality. I wanted to scream for a nurse, but my mouth wouldn't open. I tried to convince myself this was just another episode, just my brain remixing trauma and fear. Then my mom reached out. Her hand passed through the hospital railing like it wasn't even there. She leaned in close, so close I could see every detail of her face, and whispered something I couldn't quite hear, like her voice was underwater. Her lips moved anyway, repeating the same sentence over and over. When I finally snapped out of it, the room was empty. The nurse who came rushing in after I finally screamed said my vitals had gone crazy for a solid minute. I didn't tell her what I saw. Some things sound insane out loud. After I got discharged, I tried to put everything behind me. Physical therapy took over my life. I focused on healing, on rebuilding strength, on staying busy enough that I didn't have time to think about sleep. That worked, for a while. Years passed without another incident. I graduated, moved apartments, started working full-time. Life settled into something that felt almost normal. I started sleeping through the night again, started trusting my brain not to turn against me. Which, in hindsight, was bold. Because the last episode didn't come with warning signs. It was a normal night. No stress, no alcohol, no trauma triggers. I went to bed like any other adult who had work in the morning. And I woke up to the sound of applause. Slow, rhythmic, clapping. At first I thought it was coming from outside, maybe someone messing around in the street, but it didn't echo. It felt close, intimate, like it was happening inside my room. I couldn't move. Of course I couldn't. My eyes adjusted to the darkness, and I realized the sound wasn't coming from one place. It was everywhere, surrounding me. The clapping grew louder, faster, until it felt like pressure in my ears. Then I noticed them. Figures standing along the walls. They weren't fully formed, more like silhouettes filled with static, human-shaped but wrong in the details. Their hands moved in perfect sync as they clapped, heads tilted slightly, like an audience watching a performance. Watching me. My chest tightened. I tried to slow my breathing, tried to remind myself this was just another episode. Hallucinations, brain misfires, that's all. One of the figures stepped forward. The applause stopped instantly. Silence slammed into the room so hard it felt physical. The figure leaned down until its face was level with mine. Its features shifted, like they couldn't decide what they wanted to be. Eyes blinked where they shouldn't, a mouth stretched too wide, then snapped back into place. "You did great," it said. The voice didn't come from its mouth, it came from everywhere at once. I wanted to ask what it meant, wanted to know what any of this meant. But before I could even try, the figure straightened and raised its hands. The applause exploded again. That's when I woke up screaming. I slept with the lights on for weeks after that. I started researching sleep paralysis obsessively. Scientific explanations, psychological theories, cultural interpretations. I needed something, anything, that made this feel less personal, less targeted. But here's the thing no one really talks about. Sleep paralysis doesn't feel random when you're inside it. It feels intentional, like something is waiting for you to be vulnerable enough to notice it. The final episode happened last year. I woke up in my bed, paralyzed, staring at the ceiling. Nothing strange at first, no figures, no sounds. Then I felt my phone vibrate, on my nightstand. I couldn't look at it, but I heard the notification chime, then another, and another. Message after message. Finally, my phone screen lit up bright enough to reflect on the wall. The lock screen showed dozens of missed calls, all from my mom. My heart dropped into my stomach. The room darkened, like the light was being swallowed. I heard footsteps again, slow, familiar, climbing stairs that didn't exist in my apartment. My bedroom door opened. She stepped inside. She looked normal this time. No distortions, no shadows. Just my mom, smiling softly, like she used to when she didn't want to scare me. She sat on the edge of my bed. "I tried to wake you," she said gently. I felt tears slide the sides of my face. "I'm awake," I tried to say. She shook her head. "No," she replied. "You never are." Her hand closed around my wrist. Cold, solid, real. I woke up gasping, my phone still dark, no notifications, no missed calls. I don't know if sleep paralysis is just the brain glitching under stress. I don't know if it's grief refusing to let go. And I don't know if what I've seen was ever really just a dream. All I know is this. Every night before I fall asleep, I listen. And sometimes, in the quiet, right before my mind shuts off, I swear I can hear it. Soft, distant,